Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Visit. Yeah, please.
Hare Krishna. So Prabhu asked me to just introduce Maharaj. For those who didn't meet Maharaj in the past few years, like Maharaj is saying his yearly visit in Canada. So Maharaj is actually from Belgium, Europe. He's a disciple of His Holiness Bhakti Prabhava Maharaj. And Maharaj has been, he joined in the early 90s. So he's been doing a great variety of services in ISKCON for the past few decades, including all sorts of management that I could not list right now. But Maharaj has been also very involved in teaching, especially teaching Srimad Bhagavatam. Right now he's teaching for the Vrindavan Institute for Higher Education, the Mayapur Institute, teaching Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhakti Vedanta. So, and he is always mostly traveling in Europe, India, North America, and so on. So, yeah, we're always very happy that Maharaj keeps a spot for us on this schedule. And yeah, we'll get to hear a continuation, I think, of yesterday's class.
Hare Krishna. So the topic that I want to discuss today is the power of spiritual identity. And to introduce that topic, I will read first a verse from the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Transcendental Knowledge, text 17. I will read the Sanskrit translation and a small purport commentary by H.H. Bhakti Prabhava Swami, Srila Prabhupada. But before we start, I want to glorify the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita. Who is the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita?
Krishna.
Krishna, yes. Another name from Krishna is Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva, son of Vasudeva. But it means also, Vasudeva means all-pervading. Krishna is all-pervading. It's not like us. He's a person, and at the same time he's all-pervading. That is transcendental. So we glorify him with the words Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Karmano yapi bodhavyam savikarmana akarmana sabodhavyam karna karmano kati. The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. Krishna uses 3 words here, 3 terms. Karma, vikarma, akarma. We'll come back to that. Commentary by Srila Prabhupada. If one is serious about liberation from material bondage, one has to understand the distinctions between action, inaction, and unauthorized action. One has to apply oneself to such an analysis of action, reaction, and perverted actions, because it is a very difficult subject matter. To understand Krishna consciousness and action according to its mode, one has to learn one's relationship with the Supreme. This is, one who has learned it perfectly knows that every living entity is an eternal servitor of the Lord. Eternal servitor. And that consequently, one has to act in Krishna consciousness. The entire Bhagavad Gita is directed toward this conclusion. Any other conclusions against this consciousness and its attendant actions are vikarmas, or prohibited actions. To understand all this, one has to associate with authorities in Krishna consciousness and learn the secret from them. This is as good as learning from the Lord directly, otherwise even the most intelligent persons will be bewildered. Chaitanyamanovistam stapitam yena bhutale svanurkadamyam dadati svapadantikam Vandeham shiyu shiyuda padkamam shigum vaishnavam sam Shiyopam sarsatam sakanargnatam vitam tam sajivam sadvaitam savrutam Vaitana saitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sakanadita Shri Vishakam Vitam Sa Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandha Tyatpate Gopesha Kopka Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishmana Sukadevi Pranamama Hripe Vanka Kalpa Visha Kripa Sindhavisa Patnam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Krishna Vastai Bhakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswata Devi Gaurvani Pacharne Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskatai Desatarya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So, Lord Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita how he defines what is our spiritual identity. He says, Mamavam Sajivelaku Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, Bhagavad Gita 15:7. This all living entities, he says, are my part, spiritual part and parcels. Spiritual part and parcels. And they are eternally separated from me. So we are spirit souls. The spirit soul, Lord Krishna is described in the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Says about the spirit soul is eternal. It's 1/10,000 of a tip of a hair. It's antimatter, you cannot see it. It's situated in the region of the heart. It's there, kept in the region of the heart by the airs within the subtle body. And it's antimatter. It is the soul is a source of consciousness in the body. So if the soul is within the body, there is consciousness, and the body functions that. But a living body minus the soul is a dead body. And the consciousness is gone, the soul is gone. And Krishna in the heart, who is within our subtle body with us, he brings it to the next destination, according to the consciousness we have cultivated during our lives. As the transmigration of the soul is all explained in the Bhagavad Gita. It's quite a complex matter, but this soul never took birth, Krishna says, and never dies. It never came into a being. It will never cease to exist. It's eternal. And it doesn't change. The body changes, but the soul does not change. And the body is like a garment over the soul. So we have the body and we have the soul. And Krishna says we are the soul, not the body. But who are we? Yes, Srila Rupa Goswami, one of the followers of Lord Chaitanya, He was ordered by Lord Chaitanya, who is Krishna himself, to write on the subject matter of devotional service. Devotional service is a natural occupation or the natural activity of the soul. The soul, it's us. And the symptom of the soul is consciousness, and the activity of the soul is desiring. But we are imprisoned in this gross body and a subtle body. In the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Bhumira Panalava Kamana Buddha Ivshan Kamaritya Bina Bhagati. Earth, air, ether, fire, water, mind, intelligence, false ego, 8 elements, 5 gross elements, earth, air, ether, fire, water. That's the gross body. And the subtle body is composed out of buddhi, manas, ahankar. That the mind is thinking, feeling, willing. The buddhi is the sense of discrimination, and then the fact that we thinking we are this body, and I'm a man or a woman, or I'm a Canadian, or I'm English, or whatever. That's called ahankar, and that's a subtle body. And but I'm going to tell a story to explain the difference between a subtle and gross body. So Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita in the 15th chapter. In the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that there are fallible and infallible souls. Fallible and infallible. Conditioned or liberated souls. 2 kinds of souls. So the fallible souls, who are they? Where are they? Someone tell me? The fallible souls? Where do we find fallible souls?
In the material world.
In the material world, yes. Where we are, unfortunately. And the infallible souls?
Spiritual world.
The spiritual world, the eternal worlds. Here everything is temporary. And we got this body, which is also temporary. Krishna speaks in Bhagavad Gita about the material world and calls it Dukkhalayam Ashaspatam. Dukkhalayam Ashaspatam. It's full of misery and it's temporary. But the material world is eternal. Krishna says one who goes to the spiritual world never comes back. It's eternal. And it's called Vaikuntha, without misery. Vai, without Kuntha, no misery. This is here Kuntha, that's something else. So there are infallible souls who are in the spiritual world. Srimad Bhagavatam explains that most of the souls are liberated souls, and they are in the spiritual world, the eternal world. But a small section is here. Unfortunately, we are part of this small section, but originally we belong to the spiritual world. The spiritual world is our home, because everything is eternal there. Full knowledge, bliss. That here we have just the opposite. That everything is temporary, full of misery. But the soul is eternal. We are incompatible with this material world, because we are connected with this material body, which is just the opposite, right? It's temporary, full of misery. So, we belong to the spiritual world. And sometime we were in the spiritual world. But it's too long to trace back. Too long. Nityabada. We are all practically eternally. It looks like eternally we are in the material world, taking one body after another. But Srila Rupa Goswami, he writes in Nectar of Instruction, this is a very esoteric text, but I want to share it, and maybe we don't understand it, but after I will try to clarify it, and maybe at the end we will understand. In text 10 of Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami says, "Who then will not reside at Radhakund in a spiritual body, surcharged with ecstatic devotional feelings, render loving service to the divine couple Shishi Radha Govinda, who performs the Astakaliya Lila, their eternal eightfold daily pastime." So Rupa Goswami said that we belong to this spiritual world, and in a spiritual body. The spiritual body is our real identity, spiritual identity. But now, the story. Once we were in the spiritual world, and we had a spiritual body. A spiritual body can only be used for spiritual purposes, for nothing else. It's not possible. Spiritual purposes means it can only be used to render devotional service with love for Krishna, for God. That spiritual body can only be used for that. And it's an eternal body, full of bliss. And we were in that spiritual world, and we had such a body. And this spiritual body has its own thinking, feeling, and willing, its own intelligence. But at one time, we can say we became a little curious. How would it be to be Krishna for a moment? But when you are in the spiritual world, you have to be careful what you desire, because all your desires are immediately fulfilled. But yeah, the desire came up, or that idea, not really a full desire yet, but the idea that maybe, how would it feel to be God for a few moments? And Krishna has told us at that moment, you want to experience to be God, to be me? Krishna said, okay, but there's one problem. I'm God. That I'm the Supreme Lord, the source of everything. So, if you want to experience that, you must forget me. That's the first thing. Krishna made us, because we desired that, He made us forget His position. But what happens when you forget Krishna? You forget your spiritual identity as a servant of Krishna. And Krishna said, okay, you want to experience that, but then you have to act on the material platform, not on the spiritual platform. Spiritual platform means only serving God, Krishna. So you have to act on a material platform. For that you need a material body. So Krishna said, yeah, he brought us to a special place in the spiritual world. And that special place is a black cloud in the spiritual world. And we are in a black cloud now. That's good news. We are in the spiritual world, but we are in the prison section. That's the bad news. And when you go to the prison, you get a prison outfit, right? Get a prison outfit. So you get new underwear, a t-shirt with a number, and an overcoat. So we get first a subtle body. And according to that subtle body and our desires to control and exploit, our egoistic desires, we got a gross body. And that's what we have now. We have two coats, or two coverings, a subtle and a gross, underwear and the coat. And we know the gross body changes at the time of death, but the subtle body not. As long as it's surcharged with this desire to exploit, the subtle body will create new bodies. So the point is, Srila Prabhupada said once time, you see this hand. This is a gross hand. Underneath the gross hand is a subtle hand, subtle body. Because the gross grows upon the subtle. At the time of death, Krishna says, Yam yam vapis vam vam tayant ante kalebram. According to your conscience at the time of death, you will create a new body. So if whole your entire life you only were living for eating, sex life and so on, then Krishna will give you the body of a hawk or a dog. That's much more easy in next life. You don't have to you don't have to worry about going to school and all these things. And when you have the body of a hawk and you want to eat, you can eat anything, and nobody will tell you become too fat or what. No problem. And sex with mother, with brother, with it doesn't matter in a hawk's body. Nobody will complain. So easy. So it depends according to our consciousness at the time of death. We get a certain body. That's all explained in Bhagavad Gita. So we have the gross hand, the subtle hand, but beyond there is the spiritual hand and the spiritual arm. Srila Prabhupada said the spiritual senses are there, but they are now covered over. So, what we are discussing in this verse, in the 4th chapter, is how you can activate either the gross body or the subtle body. So, we can be active with the subtle body, with the gross body. One important detail is when we desired to act separate from Krishna, Krishna gave us a gross and a subtle body. But that subtle body has intelligence. We have intelligence and thinking, feeling, willing. These are parts of the subtle body. But we have also a spiritual intelligence and a spiritual intelligence and a spiritual mind, which is the spiritual body. There it's not different. this is within the spiritual body, but it has now become completely inactive. Inactive. Because the spiritual body you cannot use for material activities in this world. Srila Prabhupada explains that in Srimad Bhagavatam 174 purport. Srila Prabhupada says the spirit soul has its own thinking, feeling and willing in the unconditional state also, in the spiritual state also. It's very important. And because the material thinking, feeling and willing and intelligence and memory, that when you die you forget. Next life you don't remember your previous life. Maybe in rare cases it happens with young children, but mostly you forget. Because it's material, it's temporary. That the temporary memory is very limited. If one asked you, what did you 2 months ago on this Wednesday evening, what did you do? You have to think really. 2 months ago, my God, completely forgotten. Yeah. So what we're remembering our previous lives. And if you would remember all your previous lives in the material world, then you remember all your frustrations and all those previous lives. You will not be able to live if you remember all these previous lives. But that's important to understand. We have also a spiritual, our own thinking, feeling, willing, and our own intelligence, which is the spiritual body. It's not a separate thing on the spiritual platform. It is the spiritual body. Here we have separate elements. It becomes all complicated. You get this. You have the subtle body. You go to sleep at night, and then the gross body rests, and we lose control about the subtle body, and it creates dreams and so many things. And sometimes you have deep sleep, then the subtle body is also resting. Good. It's so complicated, this body. But the point here is, what Bhagavad Gita explains is how we can reactivate the spiritual body and purify the material body. Spiritualize it. Spiritualizing the material body, spiritualizing the subtle body, means we are going to destroy it in the long term. Because we are taking birth again and again because of these subtle bodies. But now, this verse says there are two kinds of activities. Sukarma, and it's called karma here, but I call it sukarma to clarify. But because karma is the overall term. Someone says, "Oh, it's my karma. What can I do?" But it can be good karma or bad karma. Sukarma is good karma, and Krishna says here, it's according to the scriptures that when we came to this material world, Krishna gave us the laws via his representative Manu. It's called the Manu Samhita. How all the rules how to live in this world. And if you follow these rules, then you get good karma. Good karma produces in your next life happiness for the body and the mind. happiness for the body and the mind. But this is not the happiness of the soul. This is temporary happiness. The happiness, we are in a restaurant, the happiness of a restaurant, eating a pizza. How long does it take? 20 minutes. Then finished again. It's all very temporary. So if you want this happiness of eating pizza, then you have to, many lives, you have to do sukarma. But it's troublesome, this sukarma. It's good karma, so-called good karma. You have to take birth and die again to get it. Is it very good? No, we are a spirit soul, we want eternal happiness, and you can't get it in this material world, eternal happiness. It's all flickering. And there is also this vikarma. If you don't follow the scriptures and you just want to exploit everyone and everything just for ein mind, then you get suffering. Suffer in next life. You try to enjoy and exploit in this life, next life you will suffer. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Isam spasya boga dukayona evatel chantapante kanteya nati sharamatu ramate buddha. He says, yes, that if you want to enjoy this world of this body and these senses, then the result will be suffering. You have to pay for it, for suffering. And Krishna says, the sages have said, it's not worthwhile, because it's temporary. It's all temporary. We are after temporary happiness in this world. We want happiness, but also distress comes. Nobody wants distress, but it comes. So happiness will also come on its own accord. That's because of our actions in previous lives. So you have this sukarma. This sukarma, imagine, first we have now to understand what's the activity of the soul. We need attention because that's not easy to understand, and this is the most essential point. What's the activity of the soul? What does the soul do? Please? That is what a soul should do. But in this world, what was the symptom of the soul? Consciousness. And what's the activity? You just said it? Desire. The soul desires. With our desire, we are activating either a material or our spiritual body. Imagine you have 3 buttons in your mind. You have a green one, you have a red one, and you have the blue one. The green one we call sukarma, good karma. So the red one is vikarma, and the blue one is akarma. Now, we explained already sukarma and vikarma, good and bad karma. So, by your desire to follow follow the scriptures and do good activities in this world, you push the green button. And if you want to enjoy for ein mind and not following anything, just life is for enjoyment, be sure you enjoy, do whatever what's needed, you push the red button. and you get suffering in the future. So both green and red are bad, because you will either enjoy or suffer in a new body, that's all, and it's also temporary. Krishna says, one who lives in this life only for the senses, he lives for nothing. For nothing. I've seen that in Belgium, in Flanders, where I live, that it's the richest part of Belgium, and all the young people, when they marry, they have to build their own house. That it is that a Flemish guy from Belgium, they are born with a brick in their stomach. They have to build their own house, and they build beautiful castles of houses. They marry, and they take a loan for 35 years from the bank. And with two, they work very hard, and then when they come at the age 60, 65, because the loan is paid, say, it's ours! And a few years later they die. It's all for nothing. Because it's for the body. And we are not the body. It's madness. It's madness to push on the green and the red button. But we have to learn to push on the blue button. And for that we have to understand what is the soul. The soul has to act according to Krishna, according to Dharma, the Dharma of the soul, spiritual Dharma. It's called Parodharma. And if you act according to that Parodharma, you act with the spiritual body. But for that, we have again, because when we came here, we have forgotten Krishna. So everyone here in the material world has forgotten Krishna and was in the past envious of Krishna. And therefore we have gotten these material bodies. We are here. But first we must remember again Krishna. And if we remember Krishna, and that's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, its conclusion is Manmana, think of me. Think of me. If you think of Krishna, generally, what happens when you think in your mind of Krishna? We have pushed a lot in previous lives on this screen and this red button. Pushing every day, so many times, and that doing millions of lives. And that created reactions. A huge reactions, millions and millions of reactions. We have karma for millions of future births. It is said in the scriptures, if you kill a cow, how long does it take to kill a cow? 20 minutes? You will take birth again as much there are hairs on the cow. How much hairs are there on the cow?
Millions.
We cannot count it. So, can we imagine what karma do we have? But by pushing on this akarma button, by thinking of Krishna, all that karma is destroyed. What are the methods of thinking of Krishna? One of the methods is chanting Krishna's names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Just by all doing that, you are destroying right now, you are saving already millions of births. But it's the work, it's a big work, that the heart is not cleansed. in a few seconds. But if you do that 10, 20 years, all this karma will be gone. Because if you remember Krishna, then gradually this dirt from the heart is destroyed. What is this dirt? What makes us pushing of this screen and this on the screen and this red button? Although sometimes we don't want, but we push on it. It's lust, Krishna says. There are 3 gates to hell: lust, anger, and greed. And we need to destroy them. And that's manmana, by thinking of Krishna. But there are other ways also to think of Krishna. Whatever you do for Krishna's pleasure. That patram pushpalamtyam chom yomi bhaktya panachati. Whatever you offer Krishna, all your food, a flower, some fruits, and you hear about Krishna. If you study Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, one who studies Bhagavad Gita worships me with his intelligence. Your intelligence becomes purified. But the point is, if we know we have in the spiritual world, we act in a relationship with Krishna, a relationship of love. We have a relationship with Krishna of love. Pure love. Pure love means I'm acting just to please the beloved, without asking something in return. I'm happy to sacrifice myself just for the pleasure of the beloved. Nothing in return. If one does that towards Krishna and serve him with all our hearts, then our heart will become purified. Then we come in the position, then we start to understand we are a servant of Krishna. We are a servant anyway. And as a spirit soul, we can serve Krishna directly through the spiritual body, or we can serve him through the material body. But everyone is a servant. And we see that in the world. We see that in practice, that a doctor is serving his patients, the husband, the wife, the husband, the one who walks in the park is serving the dog. That we work at work, we are working for the boss, that we are serving the boss, serving the company. We are going to the army to serve the country. Everyone is serving. But the serving in this world is not without profit. I don't serve my boss out of love. No. There is a motive. And by that motive, you push on the red or the green button. If there is a motive. Because that motive is a desire that comes from the soul. I want to enjoy this body. And you can work for this body your whole life. And at the end of life, what will your body say? Thank you? No, the body will say, get out to the next body. But if we understand our relation, that we are a part of Krishna, and the part must serve the whole. So we are servant of Krishna. And that service should be done out of love and always. That is what they do in the spiritual world. And that love must be there. If there is no love for God, you can't enter in the spiritual world. You remain here. So it's the development of that love. But from the moment you act out of love for Krishna, you are acting with the spiritual body, not with the material body. And if you do that for 20, 30 years, your consciousness becomes purified, saturated with love. And then also your spiritual memory is reactivated. And we see that in the Bhagavatam you have the example of Bharat Maharaj. So in India it's called Bharat, right? That's the land of Bharat, the king Bharat. He went to the forest to meditate, and he came to the level in his meditation, devotional meditation, of bhava. He had nearly attained his love for Krishna, but the spiritual body was already activated, but he was not completely purified. But his spiritual memory was already active. So, and by accident he became attached to a deer, and he got the body of a deer in his next life, but he remembered his previous lives, everything, because his spiritual body was already partially activated. And after that, he took another birth as Chad Bharat, a self-realized saint, and he remembered also his previous lives. The same is in the scripture with Narada Muni. Narada Muni remembers his previous life and how he became liberated. It was in another exhalation of Mahavishnu. It's trillions and trillions of years ago. And he remembered. That's so. These are proofs of the spiritual body beginning to be activated. That so yes, that so we use our material body of our spiritual body based on desire. So what we have to change really is our desire. A desire, because material desires come from the fact that we forget Krishna. If we forget Krishna, we forget our spiritual identity, and we forget who we are. And by that, because we forget, our consciousness is disconnected from Krishna, we are in a dangerous position. And then we become captivated by the material energy. We start to meditate on things in this world. And then we think, oh, I want to enjoy. That's the next illusion. I want to enjoy. And then the next step is, I want to have this, that this is mine, for my enjoyment. It should become mine. So mine comes. Big illusions. Nothing is ours here. Or something there. Did something belongs to you before you took birth or after? No. That. And then what's the result of that? Suffering. And then the fifth illusion is, I'm going to die. But the soul does not die, it's eternal. We think we are going to die, but it's not finished. Krishna wants you to be responsible. In your next life you get the reactions of this life, and you have to continue. The consciousness is eternal of the soul, cannot be killed. It can become covered for some time, but we are eternal. And that's good news, right? We are eternal. The bad news is we are in these bodies, and we must stop pushing this red and this green button, but push the blue button. So, because what prevents us to act as a spirit soul? Krishna explains obstacles in Bhagavad Gita. in 334 he says, it's raga and dvesha, attachment and aversion. We have our likes and dislikes. We like things because it gives us pleasure in the mind, or it gives pleasure to the tongue. We like to taste nice things and nice food, and we don't want what gives distress and misery to the body. We don't want that. We are averse to it. That makes us identify with the body, and more identify with the body. If we are absorbed in this attachment and aversion, and how do we create this attachment and aversion? Dayate visyapumsam sanghas svajayate sangha sanyate kamakoda vijayate. It starts with meditating. We start to meditate on things. Those who are in the publicity sector know that very well. Try to attack the minds of people so that they meditate on it. And then you start to meditate on it, and yes, I want to enjoy it. Yes, why not? That I have an iPhone 7, here's an iPhone 13, must be much better. I will be happy when I have an iPhone 13. So, and then the mind begins to meditate, that and lust comes. I want it, I need it. I need this new car, I need this, that. And then, but when it comes, yeah, it's really not what is expected. And we become frustrated. Or we want more and more and more, never satisfied. So it starts with dayate. The desire develops to enjoy in this world by meditating on this. I want to enjoy this. And spiritual desire starts also with dayate, meditation. But Krishna says, Manmana, you meditate on me. If we become attached to Krishna, we become detached from everything in this material world. We see that in those who have read Krishna book, they can understand the highest devotees with the most love are the gopis. But their mothers-in-law complained that these daughters-in-law, they have really no interest in their husbands. No interest in their husbands. And some of the mother-in-laws went to Madhu Mangal, as a Brahmin friend of Krishna, and explained the problem, said that our daughters-in-law have really no interest in our husbands. Is there something we can do? And Mother Mangal said, yes, there is something we can do. Yeah, because Mother Mangal knew that all these young girls were kept at house because their mothers-in-law knew there were maybe some attraction to Krishna. But Mother Mangal said, yes, there is a solution. You perform a puja for Surya, the sun god. And you must ask your daughters-in-law to go to the forest to collect herbs and flowers and so on for the puja, and you get a young Brahmin for conducting the puja. So they were very happy, and then they instructed their daughters-in-laws to go to the forest, and they were also very happy because in the forest they could see Krishna. They went to the forest collecting all the herbs and flowers, and then they found a young Brahmin to do the puja. But this young Brahmin was Krishna, who took the form of a Brahmin. And he performed the puja while the mothers-in-law, Chatila and so on, were there. But it didn't help. They still, because they were attached to Krishna, they lost all attraction to things in this world. And that's explained in the Bhagavatam. One who performs this, one who acts only in his life out of pure love for Krishna, then if you do that, acting out of pure love for Krishna, yes, then one becomes attached to Krishna, and automatically knowledge and renunciation, spiritual knowledge and renunciation will be awakened from within the heart. You will to start to understand, I'm not this body, and you lose your interest in this body. You use it only in the service of Krishna. You maintain it nicely. It's Krishna's body. Our body is Krishna's body, it's not ours. Krishna is in the heart. And we maintain it nicely to serve Krishna. And then, if you perform this devotional service for Krishna with love, then you feel ecstatic and happiness, which is not from this material world. And it is continuously, not the happiness of eating a pizza. A pizza takes 20 minutes, and then after that the problem starts again. It's bogatyar. Sometimes you enjoy and then you must renounce and then enjoy. We work from Monday till Friday, and Monday we think, I would like that it's already Friday, and Tuesday you think, yeah, okay, another day. Wednesday, yeah, halfway. And then we come Thursday, and it's, okay, one day, and Friday they start to smile. And then the weekend comes, and it goes so quickly. So that is, this happiness is bogatyar or sukha sapala, it's flickering. It's just for a moment, because then it becomes weekend, and then you enjoy, but it's going so quick, it's Monday again. But on the spiritual platform, this enjoyment is called bhakti ras. And that's eternal enjoyment. And it's a happiness which is not from this material world. So the soul wants this happiness, but it's not satisfied with the happiness of this world. It is just temporary, and it's not real happiness. It's merely an absence of suffering. Because when we eat a pizza, it's to get the pain in the stomach disappear. That's the kind of happiness. And we are not his body. It's madness. We identify with something, but we are not. Someone who identifies with someone who is not is a madman. And we are all in this world madman. And so there are 6 enemies of the mind: lust, anger, greed, madness, that's a madness, illusion and envy. But you think of Krishna and all these enemies go. But we must always engage ourselves in the service of Krishna and learn to do that continuously. You have to do your work for Krishna. No need to tell your boss. Internally you do it for Krishna. You have to learn that. Because if you don't engage yourself in the service of Krishna, you push off the blue and the red button. But you have to push always the blue button, activate the spiritual body. Iyayasya dasyehare karmanamana sagare nukadash abhavastasu jivan mukta sauchate. One must use one's body, mind and words always in the service of Krishna, and you are liberated. You act as a spirit soul, that's Jivan Mukta. You act as a spirit soul. And that is what we need to come to. So that is an introduction of using the power of our spiritual identity. Much more to say about that. Any questions? Yes, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for wonderful class. Yesterday you spoke on the topic of enviousness. How we need to be when we're meeting our juniors. We need to be compassionate, and when we're meeting on our same level, we need to be friendly with them. And today you talk about the power of identity. When we got the mercy of Krishna, we try to understand Krishna. Right? Krishna says, "Tesham sadragyuktanam pashtemam titi purvatam tadami buddhi yogam." And then Krishna also said, "Manusyanam sassanam." That out of many, only one try to know me from the tattva. And Dhruv Maharaj also meet Narad Muni.
Yeah.
So how we can have that one person or one pure devotee in our life? Do we get the mercy of Krishna, or what we have to do to find that pure devotee, so that unless we don't have a spiritual master in life till then, how we can have that pure devotee in our life, so he can guide us, and then by doing the devotional service we can go back to God and then get liberated from this material world.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. If my question is wrong, Prabhu, please forgive me.
No, it's good. Srila Prabhupada gave us all instructions, and in the beginning is our first goal. His instructions are in the books. You have to read the books. And if you don't understand them, you ask devotees who are senior, who have experience with it. They will explain you what the practical value is. So the main instructions, there are principles, there are details. Principles are to make spiritual advancement in this age especially. The most easiest way is to chant this Hare Krishna mantra. But at the same time you have to stop especially pushing up this red button. That means you have to follow 4 regulative principles. That no meat, no eggs, no fish, no intoxication, no cleanliness, that's no gambling, following the instructions. That means of the spiritual master. Don't follow other instructions, no gambling, and no illicit sex. So these two together, these are the main principles, and also following other principles of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Vaidhi means the instructions of the spiritual master. He gives instructions how to engage in devotional service. Now you have quoted that verse. Tesham satyuktam vacham pritavokam dadami buddhiyogam tam yenam ampiyanti. Krishna says that if you serve me with a little love, pretty purvakam, a little love, then dadami, I'm going to give you something. He gives the Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi Yoga means self-realized knowledge. So that the knowledge we get here, transcendental knowledge, is theoretical. But that knowledge must become self-realized. Self-realized. It's different knowledge. I give you an example. Like 30 years ago, if someone told me something when I felt hurt by someone, I could felt hurt for many days or months even by that person. If that happens now 30 years later, I'm still hurt, but for 5 seconds, and then that's realization. So Krishna gives you this realization to the heart when you serve him with a little love. But the problem is, we don't have even that little love. We don't know even what pure love is. We think something as a man-woman relationship, that's love, but that's lust. We don't know really what it is. One gets to know it when the heart becomes purified, really. So that's a problem. So Krishna will not give us this dadami. He will not give us these realizations, because we don't have even a little love. But Krishna has made a special arrangement in Bhagavad Gita. He says, Tat vidipana partner pariprashna sevya upadeksham techam jnanas tat vadakshana. You serve me, my representative, the spiritual master, self-realized soul. And you serve him, inquire from him, and in a submissive way. That's important. That means the instruction of the spiritual master is following all these rules of sadhana bhakti. Chant Hare Krishna, follow the 4 regulative principles, and there are 10 things to do, 10 things not to do, and 44 principles on how to worship Krishna. They are in nectar of devotion. That's called sadhana bhakti. If you follow these principles, Krishna accepts this as a little love. And if you follow that and you serve Krishna, you will become purified, for sure. And that is a scientific process. It starts with sadhu sangha. It starts with shraddha. First you have some faith, Krishna is God. And then sadhu sangha. You associate with devotees. You accept the spiritual master. And then bhajana kriya. They learn you. They teach you how to perform these 64 items of devotional service, how to do this sadhana bhakti. And then when you do that, then at a certain time you become steady. And when you become steady and you are submissive, give up the offenses, then the heart will become purified. And that's usually a period of 20-30 years. And then you come to nishtha, liberation. But that's Brahman realization. But then you are halfway. Because after that, when you continue, you will develop this love for Krishna. But even from the beginning, you serve Krishna and you feel satisfied. In the higher levels, you will feel ecstatic. So that's a process. And you must go through it, try it out, give this life to Krishna, see what happens. That's what my spiritual master Bhakti Charamans said. Does that help?
Thank you so much for detailed explanation. Hare Krishna.
Yes?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for enlightening lecture. I have 2 questions. When you said we have intelligence for the subtle body and intelligence for the soul,
Yeah.
I didn't understand what is the intelligence of the soul, and if there is one, how do we align ourselves, because we don't understand.
No. Right now, our spiritual intelligence is inactive. Our spiritual body is inactive. But we can make it active by devotional service. But to come to the point to reactivate our spiritual body, you must first, it will happen according to the purification of your subtle body. Subtle body has 3 elements: mind, intelligence, false ego. How do you purify the mind and spiritualize it? If it's spiritualized, you get back your spiritual mind. Okay? So how do you spiritualize the material mind? Krishna says, man mana. Think of Krishna. And how do you purify the intelligence? By getting transcendental knowledge. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, one who studies this dialogue between me and Arjuna worships me with his intelligence, then intelligence becomes purified. Because the soul, but to start that purification process, that's explained at the end of the 3rd chapter, how to conquer lust. Because that you must understand that the soul is the most subtle element. That's the spiritual element. And the most subtle element of the subtle body is the body, the intelligence. And then you have the mind, and then you have the senses and the body. But Krishna says that you must hear about Krishna, hear this transcendental knowledge. And then the intelligence becomes purified by hearing, and the soul becomes attached to this hearing. That's desire. And it pushes the intelligence, yes, act according to that knowledge, and intelligence directs the mind to act according to Krishna's instructions. And then you act in devotional service. Everything is one line. The mind is in control. But on the material platform, it's different. There you identify with the mind and with the body. You think you are the mind. And you say, oh, I want to enjoy the body. And the mind is going to misuse the intelligence to make plans for enjoyment. And the soul is a zombie. It doesn't exist. We forget our own self. We have killed our own self. The soul cannot be killed. But it's called Atmaha in Shias Upanishad. One who kills the soul means one who kills the awareness of one's own soul. Completely identifying with the body, with madness, pushing the green and the red button. But we have to learn to push the blue one, thinking of Krishna, hearing about Krishna. And when the manas, when the spiritual body, when the subtle body becomes purified, when the mind is purified, material mind becomes purified, means spiritualized. And when the intelligence becomes spiritualized, then there is no false ego anymore. False ego means I identify with the body, but you will identify with your spiritual. And then, when the subtle body is spiritualized, and you will not take birth again, because it's by the contamination of the subtle body we take birth. Is that clear? Okay. It's not
My last question.
Yeah.
Last question, Maharaj. Maybe you answered already, but I'm unqualified to understand. The last question is, knowing that after 10-15 years of nishtha, of devotional service, with that process, along with that, and with 4 regulative principles, following every day and morning after finishing our 16 rounds, for the rest of the day, how to practically keep a check on the intention of our desires?
That's a good question. Srila Prabhupada said we must learn. We must learn to organize our life in such a way that we cannot do anything else than 24 hours thinking of Krishna. So that means you do your job, but you do your job and you promise Krishna, I will use the salary for your service. That's explained in Bhagavad Gita, Karma Yoga. But Karma Yoga has these different levels. The first level is Kamana Vatkaristema Kadachana. I do my job during the day out of duty, and I'm not attached to the result. Very good. A little higher is Chaknarta Karmanuya Trandokuyam Karma Bandhana, Bhagavad Gita 3.9. Krishna says, you do everything you as a sacrifice for me. So you do your job and you promise Krishna the result is for you. And then a higher level is Yat Karos Yatasnas Yat Yos Dadas Yat Yatavasas Kantyat Tat Kusmamat Arpanam. This is at the end of the 9th chapter. Whatever you do, whatever you give away, whatever work you do it as an offering for Krishna. So you do the work itself for Krishna. And you give also the results. It means you have to think of Krishna while doing your work. That's a higher level. And then the highest level is Patram Pushplamsham Yoni Bhaktya Prachti. Out of love, you do your work for Krishna. And you give him the results. And then it becomes Bhakti Yoga. Karma Yoga becomes Bhakti Yoga. And that level. But we can't jump to that level. Like I said many times that if you go to the airport and you are a driver and you take the spiritual master from the airport and you bring him to the temple. While you are driving, you have to do so many things, all the traffic rules and so on, but do you forget that your spiritual master is in the back? No, but that must be there. You get that point? So you must organize your life in such a way, and whatever you do. I remember when I was in the beginning in Krishna consciousness, I was an accountant. I was doing input for data in the computer. And I had, besides the keyboard, Bhagavad Gita, I was repeating Sanskrit verses while I was doing the input. And sometimes you have problems in your job, obstacles. Then you pray to Krishna, please help me, I'm doing it for you. You give remembrance, knowledge, and please help me what to do. Try it out. But you must give the result to Krishna. But it's a gradual development. But if you have a good morning program, a good japa in the morning, then you get a spiritual power during the day to do that. If you don't have that, that's a problem. In the evening, you must also be busy with Krishna, like we do now. And before going to sleep, you have to read Krishna book. The instruction of Prabhupada, read Krishna book before you go to sleep. Then in the night you dream of Krishna, and the next day you get up and you think that the last thing you think you did last evening, and you remember Krishna. Anyway, it's a science to be learned. There are things to do and not to do. That's explained in Nectar of Instruction. First verses, verse 2, 3 especially. Very important instructions. Is that all?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Good. Good, thank you. I think it's...
One last question?
One last question, okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj,
Yes.
It's always our good fortune to have you here in Canada. Maharaj, I always grapple to understand this one point, and you also said at the beginning that in the spiritual platform, the characteristic of the individual is that we're infallible, right? And the characteristic of the material world is that we are fallible. So being in the spiritual world, we all originating from the spiritual world, we're all infallible in the initial stage. How do we then generate that desire to, even that thought, maybe as you said, it might not be a desire, but that thought, how does it come to existence that I want to be God, or how does it be God? If we're already infallible.
We are thinking, first of all, the soul is never conditioned real. Because The soul is spiritual, has nothing to do with this body. But we imagine that we are this body, and that's due to pollution of consciousness. So, in reality, we are not fallen. But the point is that by spiritual knowledge, the spiritual facts cannot be understood by material logic, material laws. That in the spiritual world, there is no time. Here there is influence of time. So in reality, we have never left the material world if we go. But we cannot understand. You need spiritual intelligence for that. And with these brains, it's material. The subtle body is material. Spiritual knowledge is Tene Brahmaridaya Adhikavaye, is getting to the heart. Tesam Satayuksham, for example, it will come the Dani Buddhyam, and it be given to the heart, this realization. That's a problem. But it is in Bhagavad Gita, one who goes back to the spiritual world never comes back. So the devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, it's mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada, that one goes to the spiritual world, one never comes back. But can I come back if I want? Srila Prabhupada said, yes, if you want. So that's our freedom as a spirit soul. We can desire what we want. And that is what I try to explain today. That's our only freedom. We can push of the red button, of the green button, or the blue button. It's up to us. That's our free will. And that's by pushing this blue button, we go back to the spiritual world. So we have to change our desire. We have the wrong desires. How that the desire came about, nothing to worry about. If you are drowning in the middle of the ocean and there comes a boat to save you, and you say to the captain, I don't want to go in your boat. First I must know how did I come here. No, you get on the boat, and if you get back in the spiritual world, you will understand. Is that all? Good. Thank you very much. Kantara Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much for reminding us again about our spiritual identity. Thank you for a detailed introduction and for all the analogies. I will remember for a long time, 3 buttons. So we're always happy to have you here in Ottawa. Please keep Ottawa in your list for the future. Please come more.
I try my best. It depends really on Krishna and Prabhupada. And if they send me again, I will be happy to serve.
Thank you so much. Please give a round of applause to Maharaj. H.H. Bhakti Prabhava Maharaj ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Namami Svaram Sakshit Anandarupam Rasa Kundalam Gokule Bhattamanam Namami Svaram Sakshit Anandarupam Rasa Kundalam Gokule Namami Svaram Sakshit Anandarupam Rasa Kundalam Gokule Bhattamanam Namami Svaram Sakshit Anandarupam Rasa Kundalam Gokule Bhattamanam Idam Premukam Lojam Asyam Tamile Ekam Kundalashnita Sasarodya Idam Premukam Lojam Asyam Tamile Ekam Kundalashnita Sasarodya
Krishna, Rupa Gopinath, Shyamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai.